the Russians attacking this area here. But if you are watching all the way to this point, you probably can tell that the Russians are on the initiative and they are on the offensive with fighting raidings at Kupiansk region, at Khyslivka and Sinkivka. There is Makiivka. There is some counter battles in the Dibrova region, while the Ukrainians are actually the ones doing the main offensive in the Serebrentsky Forestry and the Torske salient. Whereas there is some kind of a reports of fighting at Kharkovivka. Ukrainians are mainly attacking south of Bakhmut, and then we can see there's a lot of action in the Adievka fronts in this area here, over in the Marinka region, over in the Velika Novosibirsk sector, over the Verbove, north of Verbove in the Orikhiv sector, with the Ukrainians actually pushing westward at Orikhiv sector. And you can see based on the arrows, it's mostly the Russians are the one making the offensive, and this is actually very telling. Rumors abound about Russians going to do some major offensive in the next window of operations. Meanwhile, if you are lost, we are now in the conclusions. All these rumors come from all sort of places. My position is that the Russians have no need to go on the offensive, because by right, that this is a condition. This is a condition to the Russian offensive. There should be another offensive by the Ukrainians, and the next offensive is supposed to be with F-16s as air support, maybe even some other European aircraft that we are not known yet. And then we are probably going to see, or definitely have to see, Abrams tank, Leopard 1s, supported, reinforcing whatever they have left tentatively with AMX 10s, Leopard 2s, Challenger tanks, because we haven't even seen much of the Challenger tanks in action. These main tank units, with whatever remaining in terms of infantry fighting vehicles and armored vehicles, will form the bulk of a bigger, I would say probably bigger, because Leopard 1s are in the hundreds, and so a bigger second Ukrainian offensive, and that would be probably the last, because the West would not be providing anything more than all these things, because everything else will be new and advanced and cutting edge, and the West will not put this in, because putting this in will be putting strategic forces into the Ukraine war, and that will actually weaken the West, and the West will not want to do that, because the idea of Ukraine war was never to be a NATO versus Russia war. This is just a proxy war that the West wants to drain Russia, and the Russians know it, and they also want to use this to drain the West, which is also happening, because the Western part actually miscalculated in terms of how powerful the sanctions can be, and apparently the sanctions did not really hit Russia that heavily. What's worse is actually push Russia into a much more stronger geopolitical position with the rest of the world minus the West. So this is geostrategical battle that is being played out in Ukraine. Ukraine is just pawn at this point. They are just pawned by both sides. Russia don't really want to kill the Ukrainians, but the Ukrainians just keep wanting to fight, and to the Russians it's like, okay, no choice, we just fight because you want to fight. And the West is just using Ukraine as foot soldiers to fight the Russians, and this is basically what is happening right now. But the situation in the West in terms of the politics is looking quite bad. The anti-war sentiment is starting to grow much bigger, especially in the United States, which is actually very pivotal, as they are the one that is providing the most money, and maybe the direction that the Europeans have to follow is looking really bad. And if the United States, even without Trump or any other new president taking over Biden, that will go anti-war in Ukraine, or to make a deal with Russia, if before that happens and United States decided to cut funding or support to Ukraine through the House of through the House, the lower house, which is the what's it called, Congress, and then we will see a premature end to the Ukraine war, or at least a premature end to the support to the Ukraine. And this is actually possible because given all these different media, the Western media, they suddenly becoming like Russian propaganda. They are feeling like Russian propaganda, saying things that many neutral sources or even pro-Russian sources are saying for more than a year now, is that the West will not be able to keep up with all this support, and the Ukrainians are actually not doing so well on the battlefield. And all this neutral and pro-Russian thoughts is starting to leak into this pro-Ukrainian medias or Western media. Is actually a very, very bad sign for Ukraine. I don't see this as I see this as a very, very serious change in terms of rhetoric, and this is actually quite bad. And when you look at Zelensky saying statements like, even if the support ends, we will continue to fight. This kind of statement is actually very telling that Ukraine is bracing themselves for the unimaginable, the end of Western support for Ukraine's war against Russia. And if you look at this map, full of red arrows, this is not even the offensive yet. This is just, I would say, positioning, tactical battles. This is not even the main offensive. The Russian side have already mentioned that they have formed a major offensive force that is already filled with contract soldiers. These is not even mobilized. These are contract soldiers. They have so many people joining the army to the point where they have full offensive forces that is filled with contract soldiers, and they are war manufacturing, constantly pumping out totally new equipments, BMP3s, new T90s, T80s, new TOS-1As. All these new equipments are not even at the front line yet. Whatever that is fighting at the front line is already being filled previously. What the Russians are lacking was ammunition for certain type of weaponry, like the Grad. We haven't seen a lot of the Grad videos or drone footage of Grad bombardments, because the Russians pretty much run out of it, and production of it is just not that fast. And rumors coming from German media is that the Russians are using Iranian Grads, and all these ammunitions coming in is going to help the Russians to do the operation that they need. The Russians have the vehicles, they just don't have the ammo for many of the things. In fact, a lot of this long range missiles or rockets that the Russians previously was using, we have not even seen them for a long time. Smerch, the Uragans, the whatever, or some other the long range missile that I cannot remember the name right now. We haven't seen them since the first half of the war, because the Russians probably use up all the weapons, all the ammunitions, and they are unable to produce this at scale. And if they are producing all these ammunition, they are revamping, retooling the factories to mass produce all these things, and we are still not seeing this in the battlefield. We haven't seen many of these major long-range weapons that previously that was used in the first half of the war. Then the Russians might be actually keeping them in stock. They are accumulating all these things, just like the T90s, just like I haven't even seen BMPTs for a long time, the Terminators. We haven't seen footages of them for a long time. Did they get destroyed, or were they pulled into the reserves? And then are they being used to form new formations? We do not know. A lot of things on the Russian side is not natural, in the sense that it doesn't fit with the Ukrainians' narrative. I know the Ukrainians are saying that they're destroying the Russian forces and whatnot, But the reality is, when you look at the big picture, you looking information from both sides, you look at the confidence, the narrative, the words, the rhetorics from the Russian side, the Russians are hyper confident, and this is actually crazy. So the rumors of Russian doing the offensive, like I said, there's only one condition: if the West stop providing the arms, if suddenly the Leopard 1s are not going to come, if the Abrams tanks are not going to come, because there is only like 10 that was delivered into Ukraine right now. If more of these promised weapons are not going to come, suddenly they are all redrawn. For example, the Germans suddenly renegated on their words to give the Taurus long-range missile, the long-range cruise missiles to Ukraine. And this is actually very significant because this come after the threat by Medvedev that the Russian previous president and prime minister, he actually warned that if the Germans use the Taurus, give the Taurus to the Ukrainians, the Russians will strike the factory in Germany, directly inside Germany, as that is to them an escalation and probably somewhat of a declaration of war against Russia, maybe. And Medvedev is just, he's spotting a lot of very crazy stuff, but the Germans are worried. And if the Germans take a word of a maverick seriously, then you can know that the real situation in the western part that is supporting Ukraine is actually quite bad. So all these things adds up. One and another slowly adds up, and it just builds up into something that is very worrying, if you are on the Ukrainian side or the anti-Russian side. And my position remains the same. The Russians are not going to go on the major offensive. They will probably go on some offensive. They will go on some offensive to improve tactical positions, maybe recover some of these lost positions. Perhaps the Robotine in the west of Verbove, maybe Klishevka, perhaps, just to put back the line that they previously prepared, and to dare the Ukrainians to come back again. That's the most I think they will go. But like I said earlier, the condition, if the West cut their support, I think Russia going into a major offensive is actually very highly likely. So anyway, thank you for watching. For those that are watching on the main channel, they are watching the conclusions, and I think this is just very important messages that I want to reach out to more people. And if you want to continue to follow the war reporting of Ukraine, do check out the DPA War channel. And if you are already on the DPA War channel watching the entire full SITREP that is declassified, do subscribe, and do share the channel to everyone. And it's important. The more people, the more average view there is, then the less need for the SITREPs to be under paywall. Anyway, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next update.